Good morning. This is the latest in the series by Pack Scout, myself, Matthew Rogerson, talking about the key things that are affecting the packaging industry. Perhaps the most important discovery of the last year has been through surveys, through the research, through the reading, through the news stories that are appearing across the packaging and sustainable packaging industry. There is the fact that we miss the source of packaging issues globally, and that's misalignment. Misalignment and miscommunication are responsible for every single issue that we see happening further upstream in the packaging industry, whether that is an issue with cost or materials, regulatory compliance, issues with consumers, issues with the supply chain. All of those are a smokescreen for a misalignment, a disconnect, a miscommunication back up the chain that manifests itself as misalignment. So this presentation is a very simple overview of the problem. Future videos will go into it in more depth, but I just thought it would be a good idea to start by explaining, diagnosing the problem, and also providing a brief example of some of the solutions. So, misalignment, why the costs keep rising, why the timelines slip, why progress stalls, and what to do about it. When I asked 220 companies 3 questions earlier this year on the sustainable packaging industry, the 3 questions were very simple. What is your biggest barrier to sustainable packaging today? What insight do you need to lead sustainable packaging in your organization? And the third question was, what are some of the learning outcomes or information that you would need from the webinar presentation they were attending to help you succeed in your sustainable packaging strategy and development? Now, what was interesting is that going into asking those 3 questions, the expectation was that there would be an alignment. When somebody says that their biggest problem is a cost or commercial barrier to sustainable packaging, the expectation is that their insights needed to address this barrier would be linked. So they would be looking at cost information or commercial information or processes or tools that would help them address that barrier. In addition, you would expect them to want learning outcomes, again, that are directed towards achieving, addressing, overcoming that barrier. So here, the biggest barriers to sustainable packaging: cost and commercial, materials and design, strategic alignment, knowledge gaps, policy and regulation. Not a single one of these lines up. When we put them in a matrix in order to give you an idea of what we would expect would be those colors to all be the same as they went through, because this is showing the descending priority of how people answered the questions. So question 1, question 2, question 3. And you can see that they are all over the space. So there's no color consistency, there's no number consistency, everything is all completely disjointed. It is everywhere. So it's at the design stage. So if the specs are misaligned with operations, if the equipment is misaligned, so it can't produce or flow product through as quickly or efficiently as it should do. At the collection stage, there's inconsistent communication, bag delivery, infrastructure. There's a lot of misalignment in terms of how products or packaging or waste is collected. And then the market stage, there's uncertain policy signals, there's limited end market demands, there's all sorts of issues. This 3 layers are just in the standard make, use, and dispose model. So just the way things are done at the moment in how we design it, and how we collect it, and in how we recycle, reuse, or do something with that collecting material, we are seeing there's alignment in every single stage. Misalignment in every single stage. Design without alignment fails. What I mean by that is that you have to design for the real world. In this case, this is from the Reuse Association, looking at the behavior patterns that are behind how to improve reuse numbers. We're seeing that in material durability, it needs to be able to survive multiple use cycles without quality loss. For consumer usability, it needs to be easy to refill, return, reuse. It needs to be convenient for all of those steps. It shouldn't be adding lots of barriers or friction into the process. It should be intuitive and easy. Operational compatibility should be able to run efficiently on filling, washing, and logistic systems. And then economic viability needs to be cost effective, because there's no point in coming up with an extra or exceptional solution that costs 25 times as much and is therefore a no-go. So when it comes to just the reuse aspect of packaging, any design that doesn't include the fact that it's going to have to be reused, it's going to have to be recleaned, it's going to have to be brought with somebody to where they need to use it. All of these different stages have to be designed into the process and the package, otherwise it will fail. So in Flex Collect, this is for the flexible packaging industry. So if there's collection without coordination, it loses momentum. Here we're looking at the barriers to flexible plastic collection. So again, there's a huge interest in being able to recollect, reuse, recycle flexible plastic film, because it's such a large part of the packaging mix. But if they haven't got the right bags, if they've got unclear instructions, if there's poor bag quality, if there's limitations in the recycling system or the center, if there's a low awareness. In the US, the Recycling Partnership had a very clear campaign where they said, fundamentally, the things that needs to be available for any campaign to work are you need knowledge and you need access. So in this case, it's the same thing. We need to know, can I put this, where do I put this? Where does it go? How do I dispose of it correctly? We need to have that knowledge. And then we need to have access, because there's no point in having something that is 100% recyclable if there is no plant or stream to dispose of it in near you as a consumer. It is not recyclable in that way. So here we're looking at a traffic light system where you have policy uncertainty, weak demand, or ready capacity. So if you have a unclear or difficult to implement policy because the infrastructure doesn't exist to match what the policy is telling you to do, what the regulations are telling you to do, you're going to be in trouble. If there's a weak demand, so you don't have the demand for recycled content, for example, there isn't a aftermarket or a use for it, then again, you're not going to be helping yourself by creating lots of recycled content if there's no actual place for it to go afterwards. And then capacity, just making sure that there is more than enough capacity to handle demand. When we look at the cost of misalignment, there are a number of more specific areas that it impacts, but let's just keep it very simple for today. It has a cost, it impacts credibility, it loses, wastes, or drains time, There's a reputational risk involved, but mainly when we're looking at here is the cost, time, and credibility triangle. So it is costing all three of those, and it doesn't have to. So this is a very, very major drain on resources that doesn't need to happen. Alignment is a capability. So it's not a wish, it's not a desire, it's not a something that is a blue sky kind of need. This alignment compass here is saying that if you use this, if you focus on what is my execution, what is my strategy, who am I going to work with to get this into the market, how am I going to communicate what I'm doing, these four things are all essential in order to align. Whenever we see misalignment cropping up in a company from whenever it does so, it's in one of these areas. So I don't have everybody on board with what it is that we're trying to do. What is the execution? I don't have everybody on the same page for what the strategy is. I don't have collaboration, or there's some disjoint in it, or somebody wants to go in one way and somebody wants to go in another different way. And communication is the most important one of all of these, because time after time, companies that are doing something, they succeed, they align, they innovate, they have some game-changing technology that is available to the marketplace. And then they fall down at the last hurdle of communicating that. They don't talk to people in their language or make it apparent to their market what they're doing. So align or decline, that is the mantra, that is the trend, that is the thing that I'm trying to impress upon people, both with this video and everything that I'm doing at the moment work-wise, because alignment is it. Misalignment is the problem. There is no issue in any company worldwide in the packaging industry that you cannot track back to misalignment. And I know that's a wildly comprehensive statement to make, but I make it in the full knowledge that I'm entirely right. Every time I look at a company that has gone bankrupt, to a company that is experiencing issues in the market, to ones that have had a recall, to ones that are falling behind in any of the strategic or leadership positions that they're trying to take in the marketplace, every single time it's misalignment. So for example, we had Del Monte going into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The misalignment there is that they never followed the market for the last 20 years or so. They didn't innovate. They didn't try to connect with consumers where they were. They just kept on selling the same product over and over again and expecting the market to stay with them. When in a previous role, we had a major pilot that was about to scale up, and it failed last minute because we were being told that one of the converters was saying our film was not usable at all. It was a complete nightmare to handle. They refused to take it. The brand owner was unable to use a recyclable film in their campaign, which is what we've been working on with them. And it turned out that the converter in question was using old machinery. The old machinery was not designed to manage polyethylene film. It was designed for polypropylene film. And without being too technical about it, they've got different melting points. And there's enough of a melting point difference that the polyethylene film becomes a soggy mess at the point that polypropylene starts to form. So they were completely misaligned in that they were not using the correct tools fit for the task. And as a result of that, they stopped a campaign and they cost their brand owner at least 6 months in time, and then all the accompanying resources for them to put that right to try again. Align, don't be left behind. So I'm available to anybody who's interested. It's very easy to provide an audit. It's very easy to track where the hotspots are in the company. You don't have to play whack-a-mole and close everything down, because one of the problems with misalignment is that it is always going to happen. It's just a nature of these systems that you're never going to have a completely perfectly aligned business or model or factory or systems. However, once you do stop off one of these sources, when you close off the misalignment at source, it will realign everything that had been affected knock on downstream from it. So it's a bit like kind of damming up a spring, where you don't even have to worry about the river, the tributaries, any way down to the sea. The whole thing gets stopped there, rather than trying to close off all the individual tributaries or kind of bail out that entire river one cupful at a time, which is the way that we're going about it at the moment. So with that, I hope this has been helpful. There'll be a lot more coming on this topic in the future, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. This has been another Pack Scout video today, talking about misalignment, and I'm sure you'll be seeing more from me in the not too distant future. Thanks.